12th of Nuyel, 720 TR. Shh, Hywel hushed as they waited in the darkness. The three rangers were kneeling in the high ferns on the edge of a clearing beneath the heaven-stretched branches of an elm. The cold midnight showers had filtered through the branches as the moonlight did now. Moments before Padern had imagined the other rangers, warm, dry, and sleeping in the barracks back in Mien, his brother had signaled for silence and pointed north. He had cast the Raven's Eye spell on his brother Hywel, who had been the first to see them. Yes, Padern was a wizard and had cast enhanced hearing on the other brother, Hyfaidd. They crouched, silent and hidden among the ferns. Then he saw what Hywel had pointed at. One by one they emerged from the tree line, trudging single file from the western edge of the clearing, crushing the ferns along the northern border. The ferns were waist-high on Padern and his brothers, but were almost to the creature's chests. Gargun, I know what you're saying. What's a gargun? Nasty little beasts. There are a variety of them ranging from 3.5 to almost 5 feet tall. They are bipedal but shoeless, with matted dark fur covering their arms, back, and head. The fur color changes slightly by breed. These appear to be brown orcs, the most common type. They are the reason we are wet and cold, Padern grimaced, hiding silently amongst the ferns. Over the winter, a group had moved in and taken up residence in an iron mine, one that the rangers would eventually have to clear, but not without a little reconnaissance first. Hywel, with his enhanced vision, kept an eye on them as the line emerged and plodded through the ferns. Hyfaidd and Padern scoured the eastern and western edge of the clearing, hoping not to see more emerge from the shadows of the elms. A breeze picked up, shaking rain from the trees, and the leaves hissed and shuddered. Suddenly they stopped. The lead dog was gesturing, and they changed direction, walking in an extended line south, in the general direction of the rangers' listening post. The hafts of spears, previously leaning on a shoulder or stretching across their back, were now in the unguarded position. There were 6, 2 each. They weren't walking directly towards the 3 of them, but clearly they weren't quite as complacent as they had been. The 2 gargun on the formation's extreme right flank were plodding right towards the rangers. Padern started to whisper a spell as he indicated to his brothers to throw their spears at the gargun on the edge of the formation and the one near the center of the line. Padern would take care of the one between them. They nodded and prepared to throw their spears. Padern, holding his wand in his left hand, completed the last of the gestures and felt the power moving into the focus that his gestures had created. He released the energy towards the unsuspecting gargun directly in front of him. Hywel stood and launched his spear at the gargun at the end of the extended line simultaneously. Hyfaidd did the same to the creature on the right, slightly further away. The gargun hesitated, turning to look at the one that had fallen through the ferns. Perhaps they thought he had tripped and fallen on the wet, slippery ground and were waiting for him to rise again. Suddenly, the shaft of a spear burst through the chest and back of the gargun towards the middle, and he fell, pinned to the ground. A look of horror and a shrill scream split the ugly visage of the gargun, who was now at the end of the file, suddenly isolated and alone. Hyfaidd's spear passed close to his head, falling lost among the ferns. The brothers shuffled to a position where Hywel and Hyfaidd stood, their shields side by side, brandishing their axes, and the eldest brother, Padern, closed in behind to guard their flanks with his drawn rapier. Alerted by the cry, the remaining 4 gargun charged forward, 2 engaging Hywel, 1 charging Hyfaidd, and the furthest one trying to run around Hywel's flank. The wet ferns slapped hard into the chests of the gargun as they charged forward. No longer needing surprise, Padern throated the words to the spell and brandished his wand. Now with the sounds of battle around him and his enemy bearing down, flanking Hywel's shield, Padern was not able to conjure quite the same level of focus, and the spell slowed, but didn't stop the gargun or the point of his spear. Hywel caught the spear tip of his first opponent on his round shield and slashed with his axe, a wound cutting across the gargun's thigh. A howl of anger and pain erupted from it. Beside him, another gargun poked the tip of its spear at Hywel, and he riposted with his axe. Hyfaidd caught his opponent's spear tip on his shield, and he slashed the blade of his axe at the gargun's head, barely missing. Behind Hywel and Hyfaidd, Padern waited for the charge. The gargun, who had decided to flank Hywel, thrust the spear tip forward as Padern riposted, then dug his rapier deep into his opponent's abdomen. It screamed, lurched forward, and crumpled to its knees screaming. The scream seemed to distract Hywel's opponent as his axe swung quickly, deeply gouging the creature's right shoulder, and it crashed to the ground. The remaining two gargun, seeing their packmates slain, threw their spears to the ground, thrust their hands skyward, and begged, with piteous cries for mercy. Padern turned the tip of his wand to his throat and called out the spell. He focused on the changes the magic would make to his embrasure,